I wanted to share with you guys tonight, because we've talked multiple times about, our past or where we're from, and I've mentioned multiple times. So I want to share my testimony with you guys. One, for a couple reasons. One, so you guys kind of know where I'm coming from. It adds another level of comfort and, being more personal with each other, deepening the relationship, right? But it's also something that I want you all to be able to do, right? So if somebody was to walk up to Naomi, she would have it down and it'd be comfortable to say, well, this is my testimony. This is how I know God, or Adam, or Micah, any of us, okay? It's something that we can do cold. Does that make sense? Like if somebody just came up and asked you, you can kind of share. But it's better if it's kind of rehearsed. Does that make sense? Like you know your story. You're confident in it. You know where you came from. You know the journey that you took. You know the moment where this one thing happened and it changed my life. And then you know that because of that, you want other people to hear about it and you want to share, right? So this is part of that, because again, I want you guys to be able to share with your friends in school, right? Or at work, or at gymnastics or dance, or whatever it is that you do, okay? Having the ability to share your testimony with them opens up Christ in your life to them, and they can see that. All right. So I have some visual aids. Don't laugh.
Oh.
Okay, I'll bring it around. So this says Once Upon a Time. This is a scrapbook that I made for Nicole for her 17th wedding anniversary. I know. Aw. Right.
You already had your 17?
Why would we
Yeah,
laugh at
we're
that?
going on 28 this year. So, but I made this, okay, and it's just kind of like a walk through time kind of thing, right? This is not so much like what I'm doing today. It's not so much about her, even though she's a big part of it, but it's about my roots. And I've got some photos in here that I want you guys to see, because I wasn't always this cool looking guy, right?
Yeah, I know a picture of you. Because he was fat when he was with I had to go.
I'm glad that you laughed, because nobody else did.
Because guess what? My mom showed me a picture of you.
That's me.
Oh yeah, Tim.
Show the camera.
Oh yeah. That's me and my darling wife Nicole.
Wow.
Yeah, my aunt.
Okay.
That was you.
That's me. Look at that haircut. It's like they put a bowl on top of my head.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks like
Bowl cut.
Yeah, what a haircut. Right?
Oh.
That's a bowl.
Everyone show Micah's
Okay,
haircut.
here's some other ones. Long hair, me.
Ooh.
Right? Long hair, me.
I don't even
Long
know.
hair.
Where's Bob Ross?
Hang on, no, I don't have a Bob Ross picture. Long hair. Okay, there's
You look like
me.
Nathaniel.
There's me flexing
almost like he's
with
just
another picture of me in the background where I was really young. There's my
Oh,
senior
yeah.
picture, football pics. Here's probably one of the earliest pictures I have of me and my sister.
Your sister?
Right there.
Your
Yep.
sister?
Yes.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Your
Right here.
sister.
So long hair,
Oh, wow.
football playing, fishing. Me really young. I think in this hand I had a pinky.
Remember what we were doing
That's
at the
So does it look like I had a bad time in any of those photos?
No.
Right? It looks like I was a pretty well adjusted. He's shaking.
You
his
probably
head,
got
man.
bullied for that haircut.
Yeah, what a
stupid
I don't.
So, sorry. I got bullied for my haircut.
Sorry.
Totally threw me off. That's awesome. Good one. So, my earliest, some of my earliest memories are when I was even before I was in school. So probably like 2 or 3 years old. And one of the first memories that I have is of this dog, Buddy. I've I think was his name, was a black lab, really protective. And we lived in a trailer park, and the dog, I was out, and a neighbor kid approached me, and the dog was really protective, but the dog, like, I don't know, jumped out of the fence, broke through the screen door, did something, and like cornered the kid because he thought I was in danger. And I mean, that's a story relayed by my mom. But it was my dad's dog. He used him for hunting, and those really early days for me, parents would not do the same thing nowadays. Like, I could like wander kind of wherever I wanted to go. Like, I could go play in the yard by myself. I could, whatever. We lived from there. We moved into some townhomes in Hilton. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hilton, but on 259, as you're coming into town, you kind of come up the hill. There's a bunch of townhomes right by a big water tower. We lived in there, and I have a few memories from there. One was, you guys might find this funny. There was this old metal slide. It was the kind that got really hot in the summertime.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, you all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's all that same slide. If your shorts were too short, you go to slide down and you go squeak. Right.
Yep.
And so you'd get stuck on the slide. So let me make sure this isn't vibrate. So so one day I thought it'd be fun to go down that thing backwards. So I climbed up.
No.
I climbed up. Always, and mind you, I mean, when you're really young, not even in school, a slide that might be here seems really, really tall. So it seemed like it took me forever to get up there, and I got out there and I turned around, and as I kind of pushed off to go down backwards, I went off the side,
Oh.
and I came straight down and fell on my head.
Oh.
So that explains some stuff, right?
That's funny.
That explains my gray hairs
And I still remember, I mean, that hurt so bad. It just.
Did you go into a seizure?
No, but it almost knocked me out.
Did it give you concussion?
No, maybe, I don't know, but I never
I've had
went to
3.
the doctor for it. So also at that same place, I remember being outside by myself, in a corner of a sidewalk, there's a mailbox, standing there, and all of a sudden, this daddy long leg spider that was this big comes walking by me, and all I could do is I backed up and I froze at the mailbox. That was the first time I remember being really afraid, like petrified, paralyzed with fear kind of thing. And it was probably like this big, perspectives, right? But when I was a young kid, it seemed like the thing was monstrous big. And I also remember it's the only time I can ever remember wrestling, having fun, ever with my dad. It's one of the only times I can ever remember him handling me and rolling around with me and being a dad with me. So this is all, again, before I was even in kindergarten, okay? So from there, the next memory I have in the same place was my parents screaming at each other in the kitchen at the top of their lungs. I mean, angry. I don't remember the words they were saying, but I remember the looks on their faces. And I can remember the pointing, and I can remember the volume, right? It was so loud, and I was standing there in a diaper, binky in my mouth, crying, screaming at them to stop as they were having this major, major argument. And it was at that point that my parents split. So before 5, probably around 3, maybe 4, my parents split. So the next place I can remember living is in a little apartment on Route 31, kind of near Gates Bowl area. and that was a good time for me. I had a big wheel. I would ride around the complex like circle after circle after circle, just being active. I had a good friend there. His name was Tim. Actually, it was kind of neat. We were the Tims, you know, but he was a little bit older than me, but still, like, not even in kindergarten yet. So this is the time frame in the 70s where, you know, kids could go outside without too much fear from. So I would ride around and hang out with him a lot, and I remember one of my best memories from my childhood was when my Uncle Dwayne and his girlfriend at the time brought over more Christmas presents than I can ever remember seeing, and even now question it. There was so much. He brought me this Batman sit-on scooter type thing. It wasn't a big wheel, but it had the pedals like a big wheel, and it was just so cool. And it had a Nerf basketball set and a ton of other things he bought for me and my sister. And that was a good time. That was really fun. And I didn't think anything about our living conditions, which came in a little bit later. So I started school there, kindergarten. I went for half a day to Gates Charlie and the Neil Armstrong School, and I would come home, and without fail, I would have 2 boiled hot dogs with ketchup and a scoop of cottage cheese on a Tupperware plate, watching The Price is Right. And then after that, I would lay down on the couch, or sometimes I would go out and play, but almost always that was my meal. That was also where I learned I don't like canned salmon patties. Gross. Yeah, it's gross. But again, what I didn't realize is what we were really, really poor, like dirt poor, and didn't have anything. So one day, my mom comes home and introduced me to this guy. His name is Pete. Pete started hanging around a lot. Pete ended up being my mom's boyfriend, and then my brother's father. So I have a sister with my sister and I have the same dad, and my brother has a different father. So I have 2 siblings, an older and a younger. So Pete was around for a while, and during this time, and I don't know the time frame as far as like a year, you know, but I know I was in kindergarten, and before first grade, I was over by the rental office, and whoever it was that was working there gave me an envelope, said, "Hey, give this to your mother." I'm like, okay, and I gave it to my mom. And shortly thereafter, I heard her crying from her bedroom, and I knocked on the door and opened it up, and she's got the letter, and she's just crying in bed. And being young, I didn't really know what was going on, but as I got older, I realized that was most likely the eviction notice, and, you know, left us basically homeless. So Pete and my mom ended up getting married, and for the first time ever, I lived in a house, an actual house. Porch on the front, roof, the whole 9 yards. I had to share a bedroom, but we had a bedroom. It was nice. And that was in East Rochester. And I was there from before I started first grade till the beginning of 4th grade. And this is where it gets a little dark for me and my sister. Pete and his sister sexually abused myself and my sister for years. I don't say that to be like, oh, poor Tim. I say that so that you guys understand my background, so that you guys understand that I've gone through some stuff, so that you guys understand that as much as I smile in these photos when I'm young and things seemed great, there was a dark side to it all, okay? And not to freak anybody out or anything like that, but so we were there for just about 4 years, and that whole time it happened, we moved to another house, but still in East Rochester. We used to have to walk to school, even in the winter. But there's where I actually made a couple of really good friends. My best friend, his name was Scott Hudson. He was really cool because his dad was the fire chief in East Rochester, so it was kind of neat. We could go to the firehouse. We had sleepovers. We had all kinds of fun stuff. And then a guy moved in down the street for him named Ernie. And then it was the three of us, like, riding our bikes everywhere in East Rochester, like our own little gang kind of thing, you know. So those were actually some pretty good days. But when it all came out to my mom about how my sister and I were being treated, when she found out, it just collapsed quick. Like within, like overnight, we're out of there. My mom called my dad, who I had hardly seen. In fact, the first time I saw him after they split, I didn't even know who he was. I wouldn't go near him. Like, there was a strange guy there, and I was like, who's this guy? Like, my own dad. And I'm sure that didn't sit well with him, but I didn't know him. So that kind of put, really, that was kind of the standard for my dad and I. To this day, I really don't even have a relationship with him, but we'll come back to that. So my mom called my dad and said, look, this is what's happening. I need you to take the kids. And my dad refused to take us in unless she would sign full custody over to him. And she was unwilling to do that. So we were left out in a car, basically, for a minute. So my grandmother, his mother, said we can go stay with her for a little bit. So we were there for a couple weeks, and it was boring as all get out. I mean, bad boring in Scottsville. Actually, not that far from here, really. And then my uncle, who was my dad's twin brother, identical twin brother, I don't know when they talked with him or whatever, but next thing I know, we were in Macedon. We enrolled in school. I was in 4th grade. Things started clicking for me. The grades were good. I had some friends in school. I had structure. I had some discipline in my life, and I just kind of started to thrive because my uncle was providing some of this for me. And that's really kind of where I got hooked on hunting, because he would take me out, and I ruined so many opportunities by moving, by going, ooh, deer, or something like that. Just like, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. We were out hunting one time, and he shot a squirrel, and we brought it home, and we stuffed it. We cleaned it all up, tanned the fur. We got a form and built it up with clay, and we spent time together working on that. And it was really a cool time in my life. But like all good things in my life, it came to an abrupt halt in 4th grade, and I was transferred out to another school, living with my mom, with my aunt, with my sister, with my younger brother, and so I was in my 3rd school in 4th grade. So this is all happening within a matter of months. So what ended up happening is my mom ended up dating this guy, Ed. And Ed was a pretty nice guy. He worked at Kodak, which really isn't even around anymore. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kodak, which is weird to me, but he worked at Kodak, and it was stable. We actually had a house that we bought. He built a room for me in the basement. It was great. Like, everything was good. They bought me a bow. I started shooting a bow. Started hunting when I was 14. It was awesome. And then one day he lost his job. And so I had an uncle who's a mason, and Ed was a mason as well, so they started E&R Masonry, and I worked with them for a couple summers. And I don't know what happened, but I had started drinking a lot, and my mom was getting rides from somebody at work, and Ed got mean, real mean. My sister and Ed got in an argument one day, and he basically threw her through a door and a door casing and the jamb to her bedroom. Ed and I had multiple run-ins. I've been punched in the face, choked and shaken and thrown downstairs. Obviously yelled at and hit multiple other times. And again, I'm saying that so that you guys understand that I've been through it. Okay? I'm not saying anybody here is being beaten or anything, but you guys know my background. This is what I want you guys to understand. When I talk to you about, if you have something that you need to get off your chest, so to speak, or you want to talk and you feel, I want you to know that you can come to me, right? That I've lived it in some aspects, okay? I'm not going to force anybody, obviously. I'm not saying that, but I'm available. That's the whole point of that. One day I had a really good year at school. I should say, because I was in three schools, 3 different schools in 4th grade. I failed 4th grade. I got held behind in 5th. Actually, I failed 5th grade. I had to repeat 5th grade because I didn't have the foundations from 4th grade that I needed. So one day I had a really great year. I don't know if I was a straight A student that year, but I had a really good year. They bought me a brand new 10-speed bike. I was psyched. So over the summer I took it fishing to a park, and we finished up fishing, and I put my hook in, and I turned around just in time to see some kid picking up my bike and taking off with it. Jumped on it, and he was gone. And that was when I got choked and thrown down the stairs. Right. Why didn't you lock it up? To what? A bush? Like, there's nothing there. The chain I have won't go around the tree. It was literally from here to the sink away behind me. You know, he didn't like that answer. So, anyhow, obviously. So, as I got bigger, let's see if I have a, I'm looking for a, I don't think I have it in here. As I got from 7th grade to 8th grade, I went from like the boy look to the man look. I squared up, I grew, I got thicker. Yeah, exactly.
Got facial hair.
A little bit of facial hair. And that was the time that my mom and Ed were it was just preparing for divorce at that point. Like, they couldn't be together. It was just constant stress. And I came home from school, had an awful day. Ed woke up just in time to tell me to take the dog out. I'm like, yep, I got her. Let me put my stuff down, you know. And then he freaks out, yells at me, take the dog out before she, you know, goes to the bathroom in the house. He didn't say it quite like that. But, so I fly out the door, you know, bust open the screen door, the dog goes out running free, and I yell at her. She comes back, whimpering, kind of, you know, cowering, because she knew I was mad. And Ed came out with his fist clenched right in the front yard like he was going to hit me. And he literally had him up, and I walked up to him, and I grabbed his fist, and I threw him down. And I got right in his face, and I told him to leave me alone. And that changed a lot of stuff, because my mom was coming up with black eyes, and like, I kept asking her what was happening. She said, oh, I fell at work, or something hit me at work. She was making excuse after excuse, but he was hitting her. And it stopped at that moment. So, so they divorced. We moved back into a different part of Gates, right near Gatesville, in those townhomes. And from 8th grade, halfway through 8th grade, just about, till my junior year, the summer after my junior year, that's where we stayed. and that's where I started really getting involved with church. I went to Gates Wesleyan Church. A friend of mine invited me to what they call Youth Week. So every February, they would have a youth speaker, band come in, they would like a coffee house night. They would do a night like we would go to Chuck E. Cheese, or we'd go bowling, or we'd go to someone's house, like Nicole's parents' house in Greece, and we'd have like an overnighter, and it would be like movies and games, and you know, just at their old house that in Greece. So that's when I started getting involved with church, and that youth group was super active. They had a singing group called the Believers, where the youth would learn a musical, like a Michael W. Smith musical. Sing Unto Him was one that we did, and we would learn it. We'd learn choreography, or we would learn. We did one, Joseph. And I was Benjamin. We had costumes, we had dialogue, we had music, and we traveled in the Western New York district of the Wesleyan Church, which went all the way down into Pennsylvania, and up to Watertown, in these rickety old van, which we had no business being in, and we'd perform on Sunday mornings or Saturday nights for these churches. It was an outreach for them. And that really provided a lot of opportunity for me to do ministry, talk to other people on the street. Like we literally would hand out flyers or go to people's stores and talk with them. And it really kind of, it gave me something to look forward to. It gave me something to hold on to. And it was during one of those youth weeks where I gave my life to Christ. I was baptized that year, and it kind of helped set my course going into after college. I went to Roberts. After college, after high school, I went to Roberts Wesleyan. I have a ministry degree.
That's where my mom goes right now.
Yep. And I have I got right after college, I did a kind of a delayed internship. And then I got a job in Penfield, and then I got married, and then a year later, there was Timothy, and so on and so on. Okay.
Dan and then Robert.
So Nathaniel and Robert, right? So, one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is that I don't have like a favorite scripture. I've got a bunch of them that I really like, and one of them I've already shared with you guys, if you remember, from Luke, chapter 18, the parable of the tax collector and the Pharisee. This is the ESV. He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. Two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee, the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: God, I thank you that I'm not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to the house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Okay, so we know what is happening there. We know what the difference is between the attitude of the tax collector and the attitude of the Pharisee, right? It's pretty clear. One thinks very highly of himself, the other doesn't. The other is humble. So being humble is very important to me, and it's partly because that's where I come from. I come from a family of people who have been on the system for their entire lives. I come from a broken home, not once, but 3 times. Okay? I come from, not the lowest of lows, but I come from some people would consider not good stock, right? Like you're not worthy. You're not good enough. Okay? But this scripture right here, one of the reasons it is because for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. I want to say exhausted. Sorry, exalted. I have spent my entire adult life building a family with God's help. Of course, I say me, but it was God. A family that would be better than what I came from. A family that has one marriage, and it'll be 28 years in March. A family that has boys that are well adjusted and that wrestled with their dad, and their dad took hunting, and their dad went to games with, and their dad, spanked them with a belt and then held them and cried and apologized for it, but also expressed this needed to be done. I had to learn how to be a good parent. Okay? This is one of the things that grounds me. This passage, the Bible itself, there's so many things in there that I just can't say it's this one thing, right? I have long said to Nicole and the boys that my goal when I die is that when people look at my life, they see me kind of like David was seen as a man after God's own heart. And David messed up a lot, right? Right?
Right.
Not perfect. But what was his desire? It was for God, right? I mean, he had turnoffs, right? Detours that took him off of that path. But when it was all said and done, he was a man after God's own heart. And that's when my life is over, that's how I want people to know or remember me. I don't want them to look at me and go, oh, well, he had such a hard life. I don't even care about that. What I care about is from the,
Your nieces?
my niece. What I care about is that people will see my life and know that God was in it and that I did my best to follow him. That again, that hunger, right, Adam? That urgent desire, right? That I had a hunger for God's word, that I did my best to follow him, that I stepped up, that I helped, that I made a difference, or tried to at least. That's why I'm here. That's why Nicole's here. That's why Jason is here, right? That's why Abby was here for a while, right?
Where is she?
She's off doing other things right now, and that's good. She's moving forward, right? So,
Is that noise? Is that noise?
I don't know. There was, this was, I think, this is from 1 Kings chapter 2. This is in an NIV. My old massage therapist gave this to me. She was a Christian. It was really nice to have that. But anyway, this is from chapter 2. And this is not speaking specifically about a heart after God, but more of kind of as a man or manly things. This is what it says. When the time drew near for David to die, okay, so obviously the end of David's life, right? It's getting close. God gave a charge to Solomon, his son. Who was his mother? Do we know? Who was Solomon's mother?
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba. And who was Bathsheba? Who was Bathsheba? The wife of Uriah, who David had an affair with, right? Okay. Verse 2. I am about to go the way of all the earth, he said. So, and this is what he said to him, be strong. Act like a man and observe what the Lord your God requires. Ready? Walk in obedience to him and keep his decrees and commands, his laws and regulations as written in the law of Moses. Do this so that you may prosper in all that you do, in all you do, and wherever you go, and that the Lord may keep his promise to me. If your descendants watch how they live, and if they walk faithfully before me with all their heart and soul, you will never fail to have a successor on the throne of Israel. That's a huge promise, isn't it? But it hinges on not one thing, but it hinges on being obedient to the Lord, right? Following the law of Moses, right? It hinges on walking with the Lord, right? So do you also remember the scripture from Psalm 104 where, and this is my paraphrase, God gives us all good things, right? It talks about animals, it talks about people, and when they're hungry, God gives them food. He opens up his hand, and they take it, and they eat, and it is good. God gives us all good things, okay?
Like a house, a roof over our heads,
Right.
food to eat.
You all here have, okay, what's happening? We good? Are we good? Okay.
Go with it.
Okay,
What was that noise?
so let's just bring it back. Hang on. Okay. This First Kings scripture tells me specifically that there's things that I need to do as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son,
As an uncle.
as an uncle. Follow the Lord above all things, right? So I want to challenge you guys to work on your story. Everybody here has a story. My story is probably more dramatic than yours. You grew up in the church, correct? Or Sophie, maybe. You grew up in the church, right? Sometimes when people grow up in the church, they don't feel like they actually have a great testimony. Because, I went to church because my parents took me, and then I knew it was the right thing to do, so I gave my life to Christ. I was baptized, and I've been a Christian for, I don't know, however many years. And you think that because you weren't in the drugs, because you weren't into bad stuff, that you don't have anything to share. That's not the case, right? It can be challenging for some people, but what I want you guys to do is to start putting your story together so that you can share it, because God does want to use you, and your testimony is important to somebody for sure. Okay? I'm not going to test you. I'm not going to ask you to share it. You can share it if you want to. But I really pray and hope that you guys will start to form your story, form your testimony, and be able to share it with confidence, right? You think that I ever felt alone? Yep. You think that I ever felt abandoned? Yep. After my junior year of high school, my mom informed me, I'm moving to Albion, and you're going to go live with our friends in Gates. What? Like, I had no say. She just said, you're going, and I'm going. And she's been out there for like 30-something years with the same guy. So I have had it. I've done it. I've experienced it. So I want you guys to begin to work on this stuff, because it can be important at some point. So it's something that all Christians need to be able to articulate. Jason, you have a testimony, don't you?
He
Nicole,
does.
You have a testimony, don't you? Okay.
I grew up with some serious stuff. I really did.
Yeah.
And that's partly why I care. The other side to that is I have a superpower that I suppress. And that is I can build a relationship with anybody and walk away from it like that. Because of everything I went through. Because I had to. Otherwise I would have been a mess. But I don't allow that to happen anymore. Luckily, you miss out on a lot when you do that. But there's more pictures here you guys can look at. I got my wedding album. I've got this thing here. I didn't even get into the struggles I had with Nicole, with her rejecting me. She was engaged to somebody else. I mean, it was
What?
crazy.
What?
Yeah. So you can ask her, ask me. I know it's her aunt. She doesn't even know. So
Yeah, my